Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 30th of March 2022. Another month goes to an end, rather comes to an end. But a lot of developments are taking place nationally and internationally. Let's talk about the segments that we'll be discussing during the course of the show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the latest as far as the Ukraine crisis is concerned. Whether it be the Ukraine's president that has called on our Prime Minister Imran Khan to ask for his help in finding out some kind of a peaceful solution to the issue, whether it be Russia that has announced also that it will significantly scale back military operations near Ukraine's capital and of course a northern city as well. A lot of skepticism has come from the West of this Russian decision. They are not very optimistic as far as what the future holds. Nevertheless, peace and negotiation is the way forward. This is going to be our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Pakistan's efforts for regional peace and security. The second Islamabad security dialogue is all set to take place in the federal capital in the very beginning of the month of April, in a couple of days. And this is the second such dialogue. It's very important because there are going to be delegates from important countries that are going to take part. And of course, we also know that Pakistan's national security policy has also been effectively implemented in the country. This was prepared by Moeed Yusuf. This is going to be our second story. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about the 8 United Nations peacekeepers, which include 6 Pakistanis that have been martyred when a helicopter crashed on a reconnaissance mission in Congo. Our deepest condolences to the families of those who were martyred, and of course these are incidents that unfortunately tend to happen around the world. Nevertheless, our prayers go with those who have perished, who have been martyred in this incident. Let's come to the next story, and that is on the World Bank that has put 4 projects in Afghanistan worth 600 million on hold. Now, these are amid the concerns on the Taliban government's decision on women's education, girls' education, as that has been paused, and that has led to this decision taking place by the World Bank. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about the United Nations Environment Programme, the UNEP, that has lauded Pakistan for its efforts to increase ecosystem restoration and said that Pakistan is leading global efforts on the front with its 10 billion tree tsunami project. Of course, this is a very ambitious project by our current government, and it's heartening to see that the world is applauding this and other projects that Pakistan has initiated. Let's come with our first segment. Let's begin with that, and that concerns the latest updates as far as Ukraine is concerned, whether it be the call made by the Ukrainian president to Pakistani Premier Imran Khan, whether it be the Russian side that is showing positive outcomes of the peace talks that were held with the Ukrainian side. We're in the following report.
Diplomatic efforts are garnering momentum regarding Ukraine quagmire as Ukraine and Russian negotiators met in Turkey for the first face-to-face talks in nearly 3 weeks. As a goodwill gesture, Russia pledged to drastically cut back its military activity in northern Ukraine. Kremlin's Deputy Defense Minister Alexander Fomin expounded that the move was aimed at increasing mutual trust, while Ukraine's President Zelensky has expressed skepticism about peace talks with Russia. Considering Russian demands of neutrality in Ukraine's delegation at the Istanbul peace talks laid out a framework under which the country would declare itself neutral and its security would be guaranteed by an array of other nations. Pakistan, as a responsible global actor, has been advocating de-escalation regarding Ukraine crisis, and its peace endeavors were key highlights of 48th OIC Foreign Ministerial Summit. Premier Imran Khan advocated for Muslim countries and close ally China to work together to mediate and put an end to Russia-Ukraine conflict. In a phone call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Premier Imran Khan expressed deep regret that the military conflict between Moscow and Kiev was continuing. Russia and Ukrainian negotiators meeting in Istanbul for direct peace talks highlights that cessation of hostilities and resolution of the conflict through dialogue and diplomacy is not a distant possibility.
Former Ambassador Asif Durrani Saab joins us online. Sir, thank you very much to have joined us. The moves that have been made by Russia following this peace overture, these talks between the Ukrainian and the Russian sides, how do you see this? Why is such a lot of skepticism in the West on this Russian decision?
There has been a round of talks between Ukraine and Russia about ending hostilities. However, there has not been much success, except that capital Kiev had a peaceful night last night. So this is a positive development which should be recorded and which should be noted. But overall, I think the war situation has not subsided. So, but it gives cause for optimism because the dialogue between Russia and Ukraine is being held in Istanbul, and hopefully some positive results would come up, especially with regard to the Russian condition that Ukraine will clearly announce that it is not going to join the NATO. Yes.
All right, Ambassador Saab, also let's talk about the optimism also shown by the sides following these round of talks that there might be, and I repeat, might be a meeting between the two leaders, that is the Ukrainian president and Vladimir Putin. Do you feel this is a possibility?
Well, that possibility would be when I think at the delegation level or at the lower level, the two countries would reach to some conclusion, and that conclusion definitely would be to end the war or end the hostilities, or as Russian call it, as special operations. Uh, but short of that, I don't think there would be a possibility of the two presidents meeting anytime soon. Yes.
All right, Ambassador Saab, also let's discuss a little bit about the two sides, the grudges that they hold, the question marks that are present there. Ukraine wants to talk about Crimea. Ukraine also wants to talk about other issues. Russia wants was the first precondition that Russia had put forward, that Ukraine not become a part of NATO. The West continues to insist that there needs to be more involvement as far as Ukraine is concerned and its ties with the West. How do you see all of this developing? Do you feel that even if and when there is a truce between the two countries, that it will last for long? Do you feel that more needs to be done? What does the future hold in store for these two countries? What's your take on that?
Well, right now the situation is fluid, but I think Russians are quite clear, and President Putin has made it very clear that till the time that there's a clear understanding from the Ukrainian side that they will not join the NATO, I think this problem is not going to be resolved anytime soon. Secondly, I think West is also responsible for this situation coming to this pass. Reason being that they had no locus in pushing Ukraine to join NATO, and I think and without supporting Ukraine in a manner that they should have. Now they want to make Ukraine a part of NATO, but right now they have shown, and it should serve as a lesson to the Ukrainians that they have been, left naked in the cold. So this is something we have to look at it, and this was all I think intended because of the oil politics, energy politics, and the result is in front of you that now Russia is off the energy market. Almost 7 million barrel oil is off the market. Secondly, Russian gas is now off the market, and the only beneficiary which you see in the energy market is the United States, and it is going to benefit from that. And according to one estimate, immediately United States will have a windfall profit of 200 billion dollars through the energy alone. And then it is also going to support the military industrial complex. These kind of tensions are bound to cause the increase of defense budgets. Germany has already announced that it will increase its budget by 100 billion euro, which means almost 107 billion dollars, unprecedented in the German military history since the Second World War. And same is the case with, say, Finland and Sweden announcing that they'll join the NATO, which means that a kind of tensions and an environment has been created which is pushing the world again towards the Cold War. Yes.
All right, but do you feel this is going to remain a Cold War, or do you feel tensions could escalate to a level of some kind of an incursion between Russia and, I mean, between the West and Russia? Because in the past, we've seen that the United States has been very apprehensive of sending troops in the region. But do you feel this could happen? Is this a distant possibility? Because I would like to, I'm saying this because I'd like to quote something that Mr. Biden said very recently about Mr. Vladimir Putin. And he had said that he cannot remain in power. Biden was saying that about Vladimir Putin. Do you feel there is a certain political aspect to all of this as well? That is the overthrow of the Russian government.
Yes, there are many, factors which are at play at the moment. Mr. Biden's remarks, but those were retracted by the White House subsequently that they didn't mean that they want to do away with President Putin. But at the same time, it does indicate the mindset which you find in the White House. But at the same time, when you look at at Europe, and then when you look at uh, the way the Cold War has been heading. Earlier it was China's factor, now it is Russia. So in fact, the Russia factor would actually concretize the mindset towards Cold War, and that is not a positive sign for the world, and in not only in Europe but the whole world. Yes.
All right. The West, as you yourself said, is putting pressure on different fronts on Russia. We've heard about the US, we've heard about the United Kingdom, that is also putting increased economic pressure on Russia. Do you feel Russia as a country under these circumstances can withstand an economic pressure that the West is putting on it?
Russia is not unknown to such economic pressures. It has already been under sanctions by the United States and by some European countries, but now it has intensified. But at the same time, I think Russia has the outlet. If it could not sell its energy, its gas, and oil to to Europe and America, it is now selling it to China and India. And I think with much better choices for China and India, and then it is much cheaper option for them. So Russia has been compensated, and I don't think that the world revolves around the United States or the West. And then we should not forget that if they put these kind of sanctions against Russia or China, they will also suffer. For instance, with China, if you look at it, it's almost $750 billion dollars trade between China and Europe, and then almost $600 billion with the United States. So with Russia, it's not that the volume of trade is not that big. So here, I think China would be a cushion for Russia, but of course, China would also be cautious that it should not, in fact, harm its own trade with America and Europe. So it's a complex situation, but at the same time, I think the new alignments are taking place, and it will be, in fact, quite crucial for those countries which do not want to be part of this new Cold War. Yes.
All right, but do you feel that inadvertently, indirectly, countries that do not want to be part of the Cold War will have to become part of one ally or the other, one way or the other? This is the first part of my question. The second part of my question concerns, of course, as far as this conditionality of war between the two countries, both sides calling off successes on different fronts, whether it be the Russian side or the Ukrainian side. The Russian side talks about Chernobyl, the Ukrainian side talks about some areas that it has captured. Increased weaponization also by the West in this area, is this going to cause an issue in the future? This is the second part of my question.
First, with regard to weaponization, Russia is one of the leading in fact, manufacturer of sophisticated weapons. and almost it matches the American defense prowess. After America, it is number two in exporter of weapons in the world. Of course, the difference is wide and big. But with regard to those countries which want to remain neutral or non-aligned, it would be a challenge, and we have to see it. But I think during the Cold War, if you remember, in the early 50s, it was the non-aligned movement which took birth, and which said that we cannot be the part of Cold War, either with the Soviet Union or with the United States. And then I think that non-aligned movement and its members, most of them, they benefited from both the camps. The biggest beneficiary of that Cold War was India then, and then Yugoslavia and Indonesia, who were the pioneers. But Pakistan was one of the founding members. And I think in that way, it would not be, there would be many gray areas in this forthcoming so called Cold War. And we have to, but those countries such as Pakistan, we have to tread very carefully. Yes.
All right. Speaking of Pakistan treading very carefully, we all know Pakistan's point of view because whether it be our Prime Minister going to Russia and talking to Vladimir Putin about peace, whether his recent telephonic conversation with the Ukrainian president, all he advocates for is peace and negotiation between the two parties. I mean, I'd like to refer some of the things that were discussed between the Ukrainian president and our Prime Minister during the telephonic conversation that the Ukrainian president, in fact, initiated. The latest situation in Ukraine, also regret reiterating Islamabad's principled position in support of immediate cessation of hostilities and resolution of the conflict through dialogue and diplomacy, and that our country and our Prime Minister has been highlighting the adverse economic impact of the conflict on the developing countries. Let's talk about the principled position that Pakistan has as far as peace is concerned, as far as decreased hostilities is concerned. Do you feel, Asif Durrani Saab, that the efforts of Pakistan and of China can reap some kind of benefit?
Well, I think Pakistan has done its bit, and yes, it's the principal stand Pakistan has taken that the warring countries, they should in fact adopt peaceful means, and negotiations are the best way to resolve disputes. And in fact, and because and this is the way Pakistan should be adopting. For instance, Pakistan has sent humanitarian assistance to Ukraine.
Of course.
At the same time, Pakistan has also counseled Russia to exercise restraint and adopt the route of dialogue for resolving its dispute with Ukraine. And this should be our policy. In fact, Pakistan should be promoting this policy. Of course, you have recently seen the OIC Foreign Ministers Conference, the Islamabad.
And Ukraine was part of the discussion as well.
Clearly indicates about the peaceful resolution of the dispute between Russia and Ukraine. And so this is the way, this is Pakistan's contribution. Now it's the OIC 57 member states actually. They have spoken in one voice that this dispute should be resolved through peaceful means. So these are the building blocks, and I hope that this OIC's message would be further, in fact, it would gain currency also in the world, and those countries who have not joined the voice, they would join subsequently. Yes.
When our Prime Minister talks about the adverse economic impacts of an incursion such as what is happening in Ukraine, the tensions that have emanated as a result of that, do you feel that the West understands these economic implications? On the one hand, a country such as yourself, you said the United States is going to benefit a lot from the current situation. Do you feel it is also an economic game that is being played? I mean, I wouldn't say a game, but strategy that is being put into place in the region to benefit certain countries in the West and not the developing countries, because the developing countries, including Pakistan, are going to bear the brunt of it all.
Well, in any case, if there's a war situation, ultimately the countries which benefit, they also then start feeling the pinch, because the buying power of the affected countries goes down, and so it could be a windfall. That's why I use the word windfall profit. So that could be once it has started, then there could be some rush for going for weapons. But subsequently, when they realize the losses, the warring factions or warring countries they incur, it's in fact depletes their resources and their economic muscles to buy further. So therefore, the market share shrinks. Uh, yes, in the short run, there could be some beneficiaries who sell weapons, who have got resources, natural resources, for
So there are
instance.
going to be a lot of people, a lot of countries that are going to benefit and others that are going to be at a loss if
There is
this
few.
further escalates, if the situation
There
further escalates. Ambassador Saab, last question, I'd like a very short answer to that. Ukrainian negotiator David Arahamia says there were sufficient conditions for the Ukrainian president and Russian President Vladimir Putin to meet. This is what I had asked you before. He also calls for an international mechanism of security guarantees where the guarantor countries could act in a similar manner to NATO's Article number 5 and even more firmly. Security guarantees, do you feel that the West is ready to give these security guarantees?
Well, if you are talking about Article 5, it means that you are a member. And if under Article 5, if one country of
Therein lies the
the NATO is
dichotomy.
attacked, it is construed as attack on the whole of NATO. So I think that on that condition, no, I don't think that NATO will ever get approval of the Russians. So,
All
and it
right.
is
Thank you
not.
very much. That was all that I wanted to ask you. Thank you so much to have updated us, Ambassador Asif Durrani Sahab, as far as the latest situation in Ukraine is concerned. Peace negotiation is the way forward, as Pakistan has always said, whether it be in Afghanistan or whether it be in Ukraine. Let's hope that the sides realize the effect and the benefit of talks. This round of talks between the two sides seems to be ending on a good note. Let's hope more and more talks happen within the weeks that lie ahead, so that some kind of a resolution comes to this current issue. Let's come to our second topic, ladies and gentlemen, our second segment, and that concerns the second security dialogue, Islamabad security dialogue, that is going to happen within a couple of days' time. The first security dialogue was also extremely important, and this is an extension of that. A lot of important delegates from different countries are going to participate in it. More in the following report.
Has been spearheading various initiatives to prompt stability and security, not only in domestic settings but also in regional ambience. In order to achieve cherished goal of peace by catalyzing regional cooperation to deal with existing and emerging security challenges, the second iteration of the Islamabad Security Dialogue is all set to take place in the federal capital. The conference aims to define the country's new strategic direction in line with Prime Minister Khan's vision of peace, regional connectivity and development partnerships with the world. Representing an excellent initiative of Government of Pakistan to jointly combat novel challenges, Islamabad Security Dialogue is a platform for critical thinking and robust intellectual discourse. The second session of Islamabad Security Dialogue, organized by National Security Division in Pak-China Friendship Center, would be graced by international thinkers, scholars, renowned international media persons, practitioners of international law, members of Federal Cabinet, diplomatic corps, academia and civil society. Inaugurating Pakistan's first ever security dialogue last year, Premier Imran Khan elucidated modern conception of security by stating that national security is also about non-traditional issues like climate change and food security, which threaten Pakistan and its overall security. Prime Minister also launched the first of its kind advisory portal of the National Security Division, which is an integrated platform through which major think tanks and universities working on the subject of national security will be able to share policy recommendations directly with the national leadership.
Now, the Islamabad Security Dialogue is a very important event in which discourse is discussed, in which different issues are put into place that plague different countries, and a common solution is found out that could work for the benefit of all the countries concerned. If we talk about the first such meeting that was held, it was quite a success. The Prime Minister had also launched the first advisory portal of the National Security Division in this dialogue. This was, of course, an integrated platform which would, through which the think tanks as well as the universities universities, which could share recommendations on different important topics that concern the security of the country and the region with the national leadership as well. Now, the purpose of this event, as per Mr. Moeed Yusuf, who is a national security advisor, is A, to have an intellectual discourse on some of the most pressing challenges and opportunities that face Pakistan and the wider region, and under the current situation, we have so many that we need to have a common perspective on. Secondly, to also talk about different issues that plague certain countries and how other countries in the region could help those as well. At the same time, if we talk about the sessions that pertain to this security dialogue that is going to happen very soon in a couple of days' time, it is going to have a total of 6 sessions that include the National Security Advisors Forum on challenges to international security. It will also have other important sessions as well that will discuss security parameters, security perspectives of Pakistan nationally and of course internationally. What are the issues that plague countries such as Pakistan? It's an important forum, it's an important dialogue, it's an important way for different countries to share perspectives, points of views on what are the different security challenges that confront the region. We've been joined by Brigadier retired Haris Nawaz Sahab, who's a defense analyst. Brigadier Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. Brigadier Sahab, this is the second time that the Islamabad security dialogue is being held. The first dialogue was quite a resounding success. Do you feel that under the current circumstances that plague the region, whether it be Afghanistan, Ukraine or other issues, that countries that will be participating and Pakistan of course could formulate some kind of a joint strategy?
Absolutely, it is a very important meeting being held on a national security issues. It is regional, then of course economic and global issues which are confronted these days by all the countries. And particularly it's more important because in this we have a Chinese foreign minister, national security advisors, then it's a Middle East, Central Asian country. They are mostly on virtual meeting they're coming. And it gets more important because of our national security policy which has been issued. And that we have put more emphasis on economy and geopolitics, both things combined together. So that's why I say that now, since Pakistan's stance has been very clear, and the Pakistan stance has always been that we are a partner in peace. And if there are any issues relating to any conflict between any country of the world, particularly our region in Central Asia, then we are there to collaborate, we are there to mediate, and we find the solution out of it. So in that context, I rate it very, very important, particularly in these environments like Ukraine and Russia war, and then Afghanistan situation is already there. Then it's all security environment happening in within the country, within the region, and then the globally. So I think in that context, I read it very important, and for today's conference, and it's not only those people; they are all scholars, thinkers, intellectuals, people coming from Britain. So they are coming; they are going to give their viewpoints. In that context, I rate it a very, very important conference.
Or one of the sessions that is going to be held, and I'd like to point a few on it, is leveraging geoeconomics through growth and connectivity. Geoeconomics is a very key word nowadays when it comes to regional politics or even national politics. Do you feel that countries that will participate, including, of course, as you said, with the Middle East, Central Asia, China, could benefit from each other's expertise and experience in that domain?
It will be a great assistance because China is coming. Then, of course, a lot of money they required to be invested in by Middle Eastern countries and Central Asia, Russia, I would say, because if we manage to complete BRI China's and then Pakistan CPEC, then see how much we have economic growth in this region, and of course Middle East. Because see, if this is operationalized, Gwadar port is operationalized, then we talk about Russia, we talk about Central Asia, who are under the influence of Russia. Then we have China, then Pakistan, Iran, Middle East, because the whole of traffic from Gwadar will go to Middle East and African countries. So it is going to give a big economic jump. I would say these countries looking towards China, India, and other countries, they will all focus towards Pakistan. They will like to come in a Gwadar port because they know how much is going to give economic boost to Middle East because the Middle East oil is going to be going through China from this side. Then, of course, the Russian main desire to go to the hot water is going to be materialized. Central Asia is already landlocked, so they want to go through Afghanistan and it go to the Gwadar port, and the whole world market is available. Chinese spending 60 days through South China Sea and Indian Ocean, and then Malacca states, and then going to these places, will take 7 to 8 days from Kashgar and coming to Gwadar port. See, more secure, more economical, and more time saving time. So, in those environment, I feel it will have a tremendous economic jump for the all countries and Pakistan in particular, because then how much we are going to generate revenues when our Gwadar port and CPAC is being operated from Pakistan. So these are the best possible option. The only thing what I say always is that China, Russia, Central Asia, Iran and Pakistan have to ensure that Afghanistan remains peaceful. For that,
True,
they have
very
to have a
important.
concerted effort.
Very important. Brigadier Saab, another thing that will be discussed during the session is globalization and economic connectivity, and what are the challenges that confront the both of them. Do you feel under the current circumstances when we are, I mean, let's talk about Pakistan. When we talk about economic connectivity, globalization, the first thing that comes to mind that is a big, huge challenge is our not so friendly neighborhood country, India, that has not been invited to this forum as well, because we don't have any dialogue going on with India, because of India's persistence on not doing any dialogue with us as well in the past. Do you feel that maybe the Central Asian countries or China or the Middle Eastern countries that are taking part could also maybe help Pakistan in formulating a strategy that could help it as far as its economic connectivity is concerned? Because this is what you have been discussing in your answer to my last question.
Absolutely. You see, the most important thing is connectivity. If Afghanistan is peaceful, and which intentionally, I think the Americans and NATO have left a lot of ammunition without handing over to the Afghan Taliban's. Now that was left to be taken away by all terrorist organizations, and then it is used against regional problems, particularly for Pakistan and of course China through Eastern Turkestan movement, which we already know. For that, China is very concerned, and they have
Of
talked
course.
recent visit to the Afghan government also. So, and it's not the only challenge for this; it's a challenge for the whole global countries like Middle East, Central Asia, Russia, and Pakistan, because unless they force India to control their borders, stop interfering in Pakistan internal affairs, stop creating problem for terrorism through Afghanistan and our refugees who are stationed in Pakistan, this will not be possible. So this is possible when Middle East, Russia and China put pressure on India that you stop creating problem for Pakistan, because if India stopped interfering in Pakistan internal affairs, that means Afghanistan is going to be very stable. Afghanistan, the moment Afghanistan government is stable, the moment Afghanistan economically viable, then they will have established the writ of the government in Afghanistan, means they can divert their all resources towards eliminating terrorism like Al Qaeda, then Daesh, then the Taliban Pakistan, Eastern Islamic Turkestan
ETIM,
movement.
yes.
So these are the matters. If that is because when you have economic interest, then everybody joins hand together. Because let's see what happens. Why the Middle Eastern countries, UAE, they don't push India what they're doing in Kashmir and they're doing terrorism in Pakistan, because they have their economic interests. Around 40 to 45 billion dollar Saudi Arabia has invested in India, 25 to 30 billion dollars UAE has spent in India. So now when they have economic interest in Pakistan, they will not let India to interfere. They will not, they never like that.
Let's really hope, Brigadier Saab, that happens, because another thing that India is really involving itself as far as Pakistan is concerned is the spread of disinformation. Another topic that is going to be discussed during this very important dialogue, disinformation, whether it be the EU Disinfo Lab report, whether it be all the other measures through which India has been trying to create a very negative image for Pakistan in the region and across the globe. How can countries which are going to participate in this dialogue forge some kind of unity as far as prevention of the spread of disinformation is concerned?
You see, the India is well established in disinformation, and particularly EU Lab. We all understand what they have done, how they were exposed, and how much network they have all over the world, and that is why nobody by Pakistan's stance on Kashmir or Indian terrorism, including Gulbashan Yadav, and God, there was no response. It was a very lukewarm response. So the issue is now we must make a joint strategy. It's a hybrid war. It's an era of hybrid war. Pakistan is already under hybrid war. That is why this should be coming up now that the Middle Eastern countries, then Russia and China, both are nuclear countries and they both have a veto power. Central Asia, Iran, Turkey, they have to formulate a joint policy on this disinformation. They must have a very strong cyber net and they should carry out such a huge amount of investment in that. You have all intellectuals, you have the best journalists, they're all intelligentsia. So they all have to gear up their all efforts towards direction to counter Indian disinformation because they are far ahead. And that is what we always face difficulty. Even now, what is happening in Pakistan, you talk about terrorism in Pakistan, you talk about the Chinese embassy attack, the stock exchange, the Har Hafiz Saeed problems. So they are doing all this, and the people buy their ideas. That's when nobody talks about Kashmir, nobody talks about terrorism, nobody talks about Indian
Because these issues are
money laundering.
sidelined because of such incidents.
Yes. So this is how is the strategy. When you meet, when you sit on virtual conference, then make some agenda points in a way that at the end of the conference it is fruitful and it is wonderful for all the regional and global countries who are interested, particularly in national security issues within the region and to the globally. So I think in that context, I feel it has to be joint strategy, work out to counter Indians this all disinformation.
All right, finally, Brigadier Saab, I'd like to have your opinion as far as one of the quotes from Dr. Moeed Yusuf Saab when asked about what are the principal topics that are going to be discussed during this dialogue. And he said the future of the security of this entire region is going to be discussed, how the countries could work together to avert incidents that plague the security of the nations involved. How important is this in this current day and age when we see issues happening left, right, and center?
It's most important, Umar. The point is, if they want to develop economically, they want to improve the lifestyle of their own country and the region, and we all sincere, then we have to make a joint effort. And joint effort is that we should have a information sharing. Our all security agencies should get together, or periodically they should be meeting and they're sharing information, whatever is happening in Central Asia, what is likely to happen in Pakistan or Iran or China, and whatever we get information that and tip off that what is going to happen in China and Pakistan or Central Asian countries, we must share and wholeheartedly. And then we form a joint strategy how it will counter because the more peaceful region, the more working environments, the more conducive environment, the better chance of economic development. And that should be the principle which National Security Advisor has said, and that this should be the hub of all the points which will be discussed during virtual conference when you are meeting together. Chinese Foreign Minister, National Security Advisor will be coming. Particularly Pakistan and China should sit down also and make a strategy how we can counter this because that most things matter are Pakistan and China and Central Asia, Iran. Because if we are together, we collate, correct, then of course pass on information, and then we make a joint strategy and timely passing of intelligence information to harm any other country. I think that is going to be the key point and key note when we pass out any resolution after this summit.
That is so true, and I think that definitely going to be discussed during the course of this dialogue that is going to be very soon held in Islamabad. It's important for Islamabad, and we have all seen the participation that Pakistan has made as far as bringing about just solutions to the issues, whether it be Afghanistan, whether it be Ukraine, or the other issues, including our not-so-friendly neighborhood India, how to deal with it. It has invited India for talks, but India has not accepted. What Pakistan's stance always has been, and Brigadier Sir, I'm sure you would agree with me, is that we want peace in the region, but we also want to discuss the security parameters of the region and Pakistan and how to deal with them together as one in an effective manner so that no outside force can affect the security of any of the countries involved in this security dialogue. Thank you very much, Brigadier Retired Haris Nawaz Saab, to have joined us, to have talked to us about this very important dialogue that is going to take place in Islamabad in the next few days' time. And of course, we all know Pakistan's position as far as security of the region is concerned. Let's come to our last three stories very quickly. The first comes as sad news from Congo. 8 UN peacekeepers have died in a helicopter crash in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. This happened on Tuesday amid rebel fighting in the region. This was confirmed by the United Nations peacekeeping mission, in this mission there were 6 Pakistani soldiers as well. Let me name them for you one by one, because that is very important. Lieutenant Colonel Asif Ali Awan, who was the pilot; Major Saad Nomani, who was the co-pilot; Major Faizan Ali; NS Samiullah Khan, who was a flight engineer; Havaldar Muhammad Ismail, who was the crew chief; and Lieutenant Havaldar Muhammad Jamil, who was the gunner. Our deepest and more profound condolences to their families. Pakistan has always participated in peacekeeping missions and has always given its support to all missions that concern peace and stability in the world. Next story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns Afghanistan and, of course, the situation as far as girl and women education in the country is concerned. After having pledged that women's and girls' education will start, it did start, and then it was abruptly stopped. There has been a reaction from the West. One of the reaction is that the World Bank has frozen Afghan projects after this ban of girls' education in the country. The World Bank has put 4 projects, in fact, in Afghanistan worth $600 million on hold. This is amid concerns over a decision that the leaders in Afghanistan have taken to ban girls from returning to public high schools. And these projects were to be funded, ladies and gentlemen, under the revamped Afghanistan Reconstruction Trust Fund, otherwise known as ARTF. And of course, this is what the World Bank is going to also guide the ARTF to not send these funds. Let's hope that the girls' education begins soon, because not only does Afghanistan need money, not only does Afghanistan need economic assistance, but Afghanistan also needs the support of all the countries concerned, including the countries in the West. And finally, the United Nations Environment Programme, ladies and gentlemen, otherwise known as the UNEP, has lauded Pakistan for its efforts to increase the ecosystem restoration. It has said that the program, the 10 billion tree tsunami project that Pakistan had initiated, is an extremely worthy project, and this is not the first time that such projects that have been initiated by Pakistan on the climate change front have been lauded. These have been lauded on various different intervals by the international bodies, and what has been done by the UNEP is just a continuation of that. I would like to quote something that Deccan Tearing, the regional director of UNEP for Asia and the Pacific, said in this report that was published by the Stockholm 50 Plus website. It said large-scale restoration initiatives such as the 10 billion tree tsunami project are central to Pakistan's efforts to support the United Nations decade and to increase ecosystem restoration. Ecosystem restoration, ladies and gentlemen, has been an important part of the manifesto of this current government, and this is what it has been doing. It has done that through different projects, whether it be this 10 billion tree tsunami project that has been appreciated by the UNEP, or whether it be through the Clean and Green Pakistan project, Green Bonds, and so many other projects initiated by our country. Let's see the fruits of all of these important projects come about in a very short time, and you will be seeing those, because Pakistan, from being one of the most vulnerable countries, will inshallah come back to being one of the least vulnerable countries as far as climate change is concerned due to these efforts. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new stories and segments that concern you, us, and Pakistan. In the meantime, stay safe, stay tuned. Allah Hafiz. See you tomorrow.